Darkness surrounds you. Buried beneath heaps of rubble, your ears are still ringing from the explosion. You can't move your legs. Broken? A red light illuminates the inside of your armor as your onboard computer scans your body. No fractures or injuries to vital organs found, come the benign voice of your computer. Great, so I'm just trapped here until I starve or thirst to death. You have 2 days of reserve hydration, the computer reminds you. Switch off, Joe, you say, and the computer wishes you well before a click and then silence. You just need to think. You try your legs again. Not even an inch of movement. Your left arm is mostly trapped too, and that means your rifle's out of play. You doubt you held on to it anyways. You think about the grenade at your hip, but there's no way to get at it. Wouldn't do much good in this situation. The rubble might blast away, but so would your body. You've stayed in one piece thus far. Better to keep it that way. Your right arm has some mobility. No, it's completely free from the elbow down. A beam of light comes through a crack in your makeshift tomb, drawing your attention from your current predicament. Only about 50 yards away, you can see your ship, the Fowler, sitting intact, serene. A figure scurries through your field of vision and walks up the open loading bay onto your vessel. The bounty! What's that scum think he's up to? Trying to leave you stranded? Won't get far. Only you can start the Fowler. Still, you can't let him mess around and damage your ship either. If he does, then you're both marooned. What would the League say? Cazatriste, outwitted by a spoiled brat. But how? How do you get out of this situation? Racking your brain, you search for any past experience, anything that could lead to your freedom. The infiltration on Ballantine? No, that was a cave-in, but you weren't pinned down like this. The assassin on Teagle? Close, but your arms being constricted by vines doesn't quite have the same feel as being entombed under tons of rock and debris. The revenge bounty on the Ember Moon. That's the one. Petrie, a real dreg of the universe, murdered several people across multiple systems, including the son of Tal Intik, one of your favorite clients. The Galactic Peacekeepers didn't want to touch the case since the villain was basically killing off known criminals. Petrie was doing them a favor is what Intik had told you. Probably in on it. He'd remember that slight, but first he wanted revenge. Alive, though. Killing Petrie was unacceptable. Intik wanted him to suffer for murdering his son. But first you had to capture him. You tracked Petrie to Del Ro, a small red moon in the Xanth system. The moon was nearly devoid of life, and there was only a few mining facilities present, mostly a forgettable orb, except for its sand, which glowed when in shadow or darkness, creating the appearance of a dying fire across the landscape. Hence the nickname, Ember Moon. You set the Fowler down just as the sun was setting. The sands, which before were just rust-colored, came to life as the sun disappeared below the horizon. The glowing earth beneath you dazzling your eyes, but this wasn't some sightseeing tour. The lack of life made it easy for you to pick up a heat signature for Petrie, only a few clicks west from your landing spot in a crater surrounded by some mountains. You decided to take your speeder to avoid being seen. The air felt heavy for a desert moon, almost as if the earth beneath you was pulling at you, not gravity, like an entity. Coming to the mountains, you navigated through a narrow path, keeping the engine on low setting to limit any noise. Even with Petrie's heat signature putting him on the other side of the range, he felt wary of any traps the fiend may have laid. A couple of creatures, rat-like in appearance, their fur long and eyes a glowing green, scurried out of your way as you navigated the path, none of them much bigger than your forearm. As you neared a bend in the path, you noticed a boulder trap. Trouble for someone on foot, but you glided past it easily on your vehicle. Finally, you came to a clearing in the path. You could see Petrie in the flesh for the first time. The thin reptilian figure must have not been eating well. He wore no shirt and his skin clung tight to his bones, revealing his ribs and spine. His face seemed sunk in, too, at least compared to the image you had on file. The gray, scaly exoskeleton that plated his skin reflected the glowing sand, creating the effect of an eerie luminescence beneath his jowls and eyes. The forked tongue hung from his snout as he cracked the body of one of the rodent-like creatures he just caught. Raising it above his head, he dropped it into his mouth and gnawed on the lifeless creature, slobbering and chewing ravenously until the meal disappeared down his throat, bones and all. This was too easy, you thought. His physical state and the fact he was nowhere near cover made it so stealth was not essential. You revved your speeder engine, drawing his attention, and descended down the mountainside at full throttle. The emaciated monster stood frozen, almost helpless as you approached. Perhaps he welcomed the opportunity to be free from his life on the run, you thought. Unfortunately, Petrie was not as bad off as you had surmised. In fact, he seemed to be prepared for any would-be attacker. As you came close, he drew in a deep breath and puffed up his body into its usual form, revealing a much more muscular and healthy physique. You swiped at him with your stun stick as you passed, but the reptilian fugitive easily avoided it, leaping just out of your reach. His aim was not so poor, as with a swipe of his tail, he ejected you from your seat. Without a driver, the speeder slowly stalled to a halt. Meanwhile, you tumbled along the glowing sands until you suddenly came to a stop. A wet and viscous stop. You shook your head and realized you were in some kind of pool of yellow liquid. You didn't have time to scan it as you immediately felt a pulling sensation, like with the air before, but much more forcefully. The pool of liquid was trying to suck you down into it. You reached for something to grab hold of, but only the glowing sand was within your grasp. You felt your body slowly being pulled back and down towards the middle of the pool, already waist deep and unable to fight against the pool's hold on you. "Looks like someone's in trouble," Petrie lisped out as he watched you from a distance, your body nearly chest deep in the pool now. "Should have been more careful. Won't be long before the pool absorbs you." You didn't want to think about what that meant, and didn't have time anyways. Petrie swung his tail around at you, but missed as you ducked your head, the protuberance nicking the top of your helmet. A smattering of scales shattered off the end of Petrie's tail, and you noticed there were several fresh spots from earlier when he knocked you off your speeder as well. By now, you were up to your armpits in the yellow sludge, and you could see signs of corrosion on your armor as you looked into the pit. It was digesting you. Was this the moon, or some giant organism attached to it? "You got lucky with that one," Petrie lisped out. "Won't miss again. Enjoy being liquefied." As Petrie wound up his tail, you let go of the ground. You felt the pulling surge as though the pool knew you'd released your hold, but you were just quick enough, activating the grappling hook in your right armlet as you sank to where just your head and arms were free. The hook and wire blasted out and connected with Petrie's exposed skin, piercing through the tail. Freshly harpooned, Petrie recoiled in pain, jerking away from you in the pool. The motion pulled your body from the oozing creature, and you wasted little time, detaching the wire from your armlet and rushing forward to tackle Petrie. As you smashed into him, the remnants of the yellow ooze on your armor seemed to transfer itself over to his unprotected body. Must have desired feasting on organic material more than attempting to work its way through your body armor. Petrie writhed on the ground, unable to fight back, the yellow liquid burning his skin for a few moments before dying off, leaving a smoking mess of Petrie as he lied before you. He was a patchwork of gray scales and burning pink skin. Even in your armor, you could smell the awful odor. You doubt he needed it, but you still hit him with a stun stick to be safe. Carelessness and bravado should never be repeated once one has been humbled, the words of Aleph echoing in your mind. He wriggled a bit after the strike before going completely limp, his body regressing back to the thin, emaciated one you had seen at a distance. "Always be sure with your strikes," you say as Petrie's eyes rolled over and then shut. You're blind in your aim, but knowing there's plenty of trees around, you brace yourself. "Activate the grappling hook, Joe," you say, hoping things go well. You feel the projectile spring from your armlet and then the pressure of an impact against something solid. Success! You take a deep breath, knowing that this is going to be a lot less comfortable than being pulled out of some organic ooze. Steeling yourself, you give the command. "Full force retraction, Joe!" Immediately, you feel a force pulling your body forward. You're halted at first, the rubble not wanting to give, but your suit is determined to free you, amping up the pressure by which it pulls you. You feel as though your body might split in half, but finally some pieces of stone start to give. The largest barrier to your freedom, a slab as large as yourself, topples over, and you come bursting forth from the now gaping hole so fast you worry you'll slam into whatever you're tethered to. Luckily, the suit knows to let up, and you just come to a halt in the dirt and mud of the jungle planet. You lie there for a moment, thanking the stars that you're free. Scan for injuries, Joe. None found. Great. Now to find that bounty and get off this planet, you say, coming to your knees, but before you can start a scan of the area, you're met with the barrel of a gun pointing at your face and two spears pointed at your throat. Several shouts come from the spear-wielding creatures before you, their faces reminiscent of wolves, long snouts with sharp teeth, covered in fur with narrow eyes and pointed ears, bodies hunched. They wear tattered clothing, more ceremonial than out of necessity, you think. Their spears are crude, stone-tipped and sharpened to appear deadlier than they are. The manner in which they're tied to the poles is poorly done as well. If it were just these two, you could easily get out of this mess. But the third of your captors, his gun is very real, very dangerous. He's different from the other creatures in that he stands more upright and wears a mask with hoses coming from the top that run back to a tank attached to his back. He's not from here. Probably stranded. Long time by the looks of it, too. His clothes are a patchwork of what looks like an old starship suit woven with the pelts of different animals. Trophies, perhaps, but also protection. He's tall even in comparison to the hunched-over fiends, and his finger on the trigger is steady. The man with a gun barks out an order in some unknown language, and the animals start searching you for something. Weapons, you think? What are they saying, Joe? You ask in a whisper. Unfortunately, their language is not known to me, your computer politely responds. One of the beasts finds your knife and gleefully starts to unravel its stone point to replace it with a more effective blade. The man keeps the gun pointed at you, and you try to think of anything that could get you out of this situation. Perhaps those mercenaries on Fontainebleau. It had been during the most recent border war in the Sarin sector. A bunch of warlords contending for a patch of space and some small mineral-rich planets. How people make their money doesn't bother you, as long as you get paid. And this warlord was paying well, as he should. The target was a general holed up at Fontainebleau, one of the mineral planets. His battalion had been nearly wiped out, and all he had was a handful of mercenaries. The trick was to get him out alive. The man had too much knowledge of the enemy's tactics to just blow him up. So you snuck onto the planet aboard a mining freighter. The war might have been ongoing, but the minerals were too lucrative to let sit there. Business had to go on. Disguised as a miner, you slipped off the freighter as soon as it touched down on the forest-filled planet. You were in one of those no-blast zones, which meant you'd have to trek a bit to find the location of the general. About 3 days on foot, and it was best to do so. Any extra heat signatures would make you a prime target for any drones flying about. Hiking through the wilderness was easy. Sure, a few wild beasts gave you some fits, but those were easily overcome with a blast from your rifle or a thrust of your knife. The real trouble was the weather. Constant rain and wind threw off your suit's navigation tools. You were having to walk the path to the general blind. On the second night, the downpour made moving untenable. You hunkered down in a cave raised up from a river. Looking out from your hovel, you saw high-powered blaster fire streak across the night sky, the photons bright orange and white, flames darting through the torrent. Several of the shots cut into trees not far from your cave, mangling them enough to allow the wind to rip them from their roots and fling them against the earth. Thunderous rumblings rolled across the land with each of the ancient trees falling, as though the earth groaned out in mourning. They all seemed to land at a bend in the river below you. This peculiarity became rather stressful when you noticed that the already flooding river was now backing up towards your cave. You wouldn't be able to stay through the night, not unless you could learn to grow gills. Despite the maelstrom coupled with apparent battle outside, you endeavored to find new accommodations. Of course, the coincidence of it all became quite apparent as you emerged from the cave. "Hands up!" the marshaled command called over your shoulder. "Mercenaries, and the general with them." "Been tracking you for a full day," the general said calmly over the sounds of the storm as the mercenaries took hold of you. "Quite foolish to not hire any locals to accompany you." "I like to keep my rewards to myself," you said in retort. Scanning the group, you see 4 men with a general. Small party. "It's quite hard to understand you with that helmet on," he said, pulling at the release valve below your left ear. "Anyways, I like to see my would-be killers." "I'm no assassin," you say as your helmet is removed, exposing you to the weather. Despite the rain, it's not cold. Quite opposite, you feel a warmth in the water as it splashes against your face and hair. "Like a bath, isn't it?" the general chuckles. "And look at you. Didn't know murderers could be so fair." "I said I'm no assassin." "No, but you might as well be," he responded seriously, coming nose to nose with you. "Whichever faction sent you, they want my mind, my knowledge of the planet and the armies we have stationed here. Think of the lives that would be lost if you had succeeded." "Plenty of lives have already been lost for some dirt and rocks," you spit back out, feigning an argument with him. "You're the real murderer and master manipulator. Look at all these local idiots following you around while your bosses rape their planet of its resources." "Who do you think you are?" the general shouted as he struck you across the face. You let your body go dead weight at the strike, which loosened the grip of your captors just enough for you to move to grab a device from a hidden pocket against your back leg, an emergency flare. You pulled it out as one of the mercs reached to take hold of you again, pointed the flare directly at his eyes, and depressed the activation button. The heat from the flare melted through the visor on his helmet, and he screamed out in pain, "My eyes!" Falling backwards, he lost the grip on his blaster, which you happily retrieved along with the grenade he had taken from you. Firing into the crowd of the other 3 mercenaries, you felled one immediately before ducking behind a sawed-off tree stump. "Don't let her get away!" you heard the general shout, his voice fading as he said it. "He's retreating, and alone." Taking the pragmatic approach, you sprinted towards the rising river, the mercenaries' gunfire trailing you as you ran. You leapt into the water, and found yourself rushed towards the fallen trees now blocking the flow of the river. As your body slammed into the blockage, you managed to find a foothold and climbed above the waterline and activated the grenade, placing it between 2 fallen trees. You then climbed atop the pile of lumber and began sprinting across them back to the shoreline, blaster fire streaking towards you from the 2 mercenaries on the banks of the river, while the wind tried to blow you back into the rushing waters. You finally made it to the end of the makeshift dam and leapt as the grenade exploded. The blast wasn't massive, but it did create the distraction you needed. Landing on the ground, you saw both mercenaries' faces, still pointed in awe towards the blast. With 2 quick squeezes of the trigger, you took them both down. The general, having returned from his retreat at the sound of the explosion, now looked towards you in terror. 100 yards away, he pulled a flimsy pistol from a holster and began firing wildly at you as he backed towards the ridge. You shot the more accurate rifle in response, hitting his left foot once and right shoulder twice. As you approached the wounded leader, he looked up and wondered what kind of woman you were. "I'm Cazatriste," you responded, "and I'm no woman. I'm a bounty hunter." "I wish you ugly bastards could understand me," you say to the canine servants, "because I think you're being taken for a ride by your boss here." The attempt to agitate the leader doesn't work, his hand still steady on the trigger, barrel pointed right at the visor on your helmet. You notice that the beast to your left seems upset, his claw-like hand pointing at the newly attached knife on the other's staff. The growling intensifies, and the beast to your right throws down his newly bladed spear and bares his fangs and claws. The other beast does the same, and this gives you the slightest chance. Their leader lowers his gun, and his attention focuses on quelling the argument. You reach into your back, left, pocket. Whatever the leader says, both beasts seem to be satiated, but are too busy picking up their weapons. The gun is still pointed down and away from you, and you take your opportunity. Blast! The bright flare shoots out towards the masked man, but you notice he ducks his head just enough to avoid its phosphorus burns. Nevertheless, you dive into his body and wrestle him to the ground, prying the gun from his distracted and disoriented grasp. Immediately, you take 2 trigger squeezes and both beasts are down. You don't even think they knew what happened, things went so quickly, but you can tell their leader does. He's down on one knee, hands in the air, and you hear him plead. Please. A muffled voice, not as strong as when he spoke in the beast's native tongue. So you do speak more than nonsense, you say through a smirk. Let's see who's behind this mask. You go to reveal your former captor, now captive, but you stop as a large shadow appears on the ground before you. You can't see the masked man's face, but his body language tells you that he's more afraid of what is casting that shadow than he is of you. Before you can turn around to face the owner of the menacing shadow, you're struck by a surging impact to your left side and feel your body ragdoll across the forest clearing. Skidding against the ground for several yards, your momentum is finally broken, in your ribs, you think, by a massive tree root. No known fractures, but severe bruising on your abdomen. Thanks for that, Joe, you groan as you come to your feet. You look towards your new assailant and observe something you've never seen before. Its back turned to you, the creature is a behemoth, wide and hulking. Not as tall as the fowler, though thin spines protruding from its back nearly reaches the ship's uplifted wings. The beast's skin is plated with green scales, though patches of gray fur also peek out in places. A perfect camouflage for the monstrosity. The tail, your rude welcoming committee from earlier, wags slowly back and forth as the monster feasts on the 2 fallen raiders you shot. You count 6 legs, all extending at perfect right angles from the monster's sides, just tall enough to keep the beast's sagging belly from dragging the ground. You notice each of the creature's feet have attached to them 3 long talons, sharp and curved, one of them pinning down one of the dead canines while it gnaws at the lifeless body. You hope those 2 warm bodies will be enough to satiate the creature. The canine's leader is nowhere in sight. Doubt he's been consumed. This monster doesn't seem very fast, and why chase a live target with 2 prepared meals laying before you? Probably the coward ran off into the forest. After finishing its meal, the beast starts to turn away from the fowler and wander towards the tree line. It is then you see the full length of the monster, at least as long as the fowler. Its body is hulking, belly bulging, the legs moving slowly and steadily, talons pulling against the earth with every step. Its face, from profile, has the appearance of a lizard, the long snout with inset nostrils. It's at the neck where things become strange. Much like the spotty fur on its back, the neck is framed in the same kind of hair, though it appears to be red at the ends. Its eyes are set in the front of its head, but their amber color is easily noticed. You try to stay still, hoping it's forgotten it threw you aside for the easier prey moments earlier. That hope is dashed as the creature comes to a halt, sniffing the air before turning slightly to face you, those yellow eyes revealing long vertical slits for pupils. Its eyelids close from the sides, and they leave a filmy mucus that coats the creature's irises, making them seem to glow against the sunlight pouring in from above. Staring at you, the monster seems statuesque for a moment, before it opens its mouth, revealing a legion of daggers for teeth and a broad, flat tongue that has the nature of a glutton. The monster, at once slow and lumbering, begins to hurl itself towards you at unreal speed. You barely have enough time to react, plunging beneath the nearby tree's raised roots as the beast reaches you. Luckily, the creature's head is too massive to fit through the root system. You hide beneath the natural sanctuary as the beast roars and thrashes above you, gnawing at the roots unsuccessfully with its many teeth. Its mouth agape, a viscous drool drips down from its lips, covering you in the slimy filth. You see inside its mouth to the back of the throat. You can just make out the image of a hand, one of the canine raiders still jutting out in vain. The creature's throat muscles tighten. At an instant, the hand sucks back into the darkness of the monster's belly. If I can't figure out an escape route, I'm going to be joining him soon, you say. You aim the gun you acquired earlier at the creature's mouth and fire multiple rounds. The blasts from the rifle blister the inner mouth of the monster, but it's not strong enough to do any major damage to that skin. The creature bears down on you again, its left eye only a couple of feet from you, the slitted pupil seemingly hypnotic in its gaze. Scan of creature's eye indicates it is vulnerable to the blast impact of your newly acquired rifle. That's why I keep you around, Joe, you say, taking aim at the creature's eye, the barrel only inches from the slitted pupil. You don't know which is louder, the blast from the rifle or the explosion of the impact. Vulnerable, all right. The damn thing was like jelly, you say to Joe as a downpour of blood, tissue, and other fluids rain into your sanctuary. You're welcome, Joe responds. Don't get sarcasm, do you? You could always implant a personality chip in my mainframe. No, thanks. I like our monotonous relationship as it is. The beast raises up, roaring in agony so loudly you yell out for your suit to mute all exterior sounds. Even with the feature on, you can still hear the creature wail, its head thrashing from side to side as more fluid pours out from the freshly opened wound. You take the moment of respite from the attack to make a break for your ship. If you can get there, you'll have plenty of chances to blast this thing to death with the Fowler's gun turret. You try to sprint, but are slowed considerably by all of the fluids drenching your armor. The beast swipes at you with one of its talons, and though you evade the full force of it, the tip of the bladed appendage manages to tear through a soft spot in your armor, where the elbow bends at your right arm, cutting into the skin. Warning: tendon severed at the right antigubital fossa. Thanks, I've already figured that out, Joe. You're nearly past the creature's reach, and you can tell the beast is struggling to perceive you with one remaining eye. It swipes wild and unsure. Nevertheless, it thrashes at you consistently, and it pursues you towards the ship, causing you to duck and dive just short of the Fowler's open cargo hold. The beast is above you now, a guttural growl, breathing heat down on your body. It's just about to bear down on you with its daggered jaws when you see the knife spear the canine had made earlier lying just at your left arm. You reach over, take the spear up, and roll out of the way of the beast's mouth, the monster's jaws crashing into the earth where you just recently lay. You find yourself lying flat against the earth just beneath the beast's belly. You untie the knife from the wooden spear and thrust up into the creature's gut, dragging the knife through its flesh until a meter-long wound opens up at its abdomen. More blood and bile splash from the reptilian's body onto you before the creature raises up once more and rolls away, crashing into your ship. You see the Fowler rock a bit before settling back into place. You bastard! Nobody touches my ship! Reaching inside your belt, you pull out a grenade and activate it. With the beast still struggling on its side, you run forward and plunge the device into the open wound. Your hand gets stuck for a moment before you push on the abdomen with your boot to free yourself. With all of the speed your exhausted and soaked body can muster, you dart away from the beast. It's only a few seconds later and you hear the explosion. First a muffled thud, followed by a ripping boom. Flesh and fluid fly through the air, covering the clearing and further soiling your armor. You breathe out heavily, your lungs burning with adrenaline and exhaustion. Pulse at an alarming rate. Recommend a moment of recovery before moving. We'll provide extra oxygen to assist. Thanks, Joe, you say, lying on your back, chest rising and falling rapidly. After a moment, you raise up onto your good arm and look over at the dead creature. Its body limp and motionless, you see the gaping wound in its underside, still pouring remnants of itself and past feasts onto the ground. You'll have to move the ship. Other predators and scavengers will be coming this way soon enough to pick at the carcass, and you don't want to risk them damaging the fowler or causing you any more problems. Imagine what I must smell like, you say, and Joe lists out a number of rank aromas. You really know how to make a girl lose her appetite, Joe. Eating after a physically traumatic event is both a means of recovery and coping that is highly advisable. Take a nap, you say, turning off the communication feature on your suit. At least I can't smell myself right now. Won't be for long, though. Have to tend to this wound and then check over the fowler to make sure nothing is damaged. Examining the hole, the worst of it is a few minor scratches and dents. Nothing that will keep the fowler from flying. The puddle starting to pull beneath the ship grabs your attention, though. Crawling under, you can see where it's coming from. A crack in the fuel cell. By the small drip coming out, it's already empty. That's just great. Now you're stuck here, and this isn't the kind of planet that gets regular visitors. You examine the crack to see what could have caused it. There's 3 openings, serrated and uneven, like someone stabbed at it with a blade. Definitely not the monster. Could that have been what the bounty was up to while you were trapped? But why would he have stranded himself? You push these thoughts to the side and head to your ship. Cleaning up your suit will have to take a back seat for now. Have to tend to this arm and weld this crack shut. The wound in your arm takes time to mend, even with the assistance of the medical bot and the fowler. Blasted creature's talons really did a number on you. Nevertheless, the tiny circular floating machine goes to work creating artificial fibers out of carbon string and sewing the torn ligament together. After a few bends of the elbow, you determine the wounded appendage is properly healed. You give the bot an energy chip for its trouble, and the orb floats back to its compartment gleefully. Fixing the ship isn't quite as easy. The gashes are pretty wide, and you've never been that great at tack welding. It takes about an hour to properly fill the holes, and another before you're satisfied that there's no leak. Now to figure out where to find some fuel on this primitive world. Joe, you say, flipping back on your AI's communication switch, scan the area for dilethal alkaloid deposits. After a few seconds, trace amounts determined to be about 10 miles west, though the terrain is difficult. Enough to get the fowler off the ground? Unknown, though it is not recommended to use an untreated fuel source in your ship. We don't have many options, Joe, unless you want to live like a hermit for the next few years. Isolation can be helpful for high-stress positions such as your... Thanks, Joe, you interrupt. Take another nap. Clicking off again. You look at the horizon and realize it's getting late. Best not to go off into the woods and get stuck out there at night. You determine to settle in, but decide to also clear the beast from beside your ship. Don't want any scavengers coming around causing problems. A few blasts from the fowler's turret does the trick, though there's bits of flesh and bone littered across the clearing now. Not enough to welcome a large predator, though. Inside the fowler, you remove your suit, the rank odor giving you pause, but you've smelled worse. You place it in a storage pod and set it for decontamination. A few small parasites get shredded by the air compressor as it starts to whirl to life. You decide to clean yourself up and head to the shower bay. Feeling rejuvenated and in a light, comfortable jumpsuit, you begin gathering supplies. Your spare rifle, the Raider's gun, is too old and weak for what's probably out there, and you'll never get your other one out of the rubble. A few grenades, a stun stick, and a handful of throwing daggers to go along with your trusty knife round out the weaponry. Should be enough to make it there and back. You place them next to an empty fuel container, recalling your rush to leave for this bounty. If you'd only been more careful, you'd be out of here by now, bounty or no. 50,000 credits for him. Alive, of course, Tal Intik requested as he paced in his office. His white robe swished with every movement, and all of his attendants, save for you and his niece, stood tensely and unmoving, as though they were waiting for him to strike them. Must be of high importance for that price, you said casually, and Intik finally turned to you, his purple face contorted into a gnarly scowl, eyes completely black save for the reflection of the light in them. He's a runaway, betrothed to my niece, he replied, slowly relaxing the muscles of his maw. Told her he fell in love with some peasant girl from Raelia. Can you believe that? An outer system girl over my lovely. He looked towards his niece as she stuffed her purple face with food, her clothes disheveled and her hair a mess. Well, she's wealthy and a part of my family, he screamed out, tossing the goblet in his hand across the room. It whizzed by two servants' heads, but their fear of reprisals struck them firm in their stance as the wine from the vessel splashed across their faces. And I don't like being made a fool of, he continued, coming face to face with you. Plus, she loves him, and he will come to do the same for her when he returns. At this, he turned away from you and looked to see if any of his servants had put their foot wrong. None had, which he seemed to be disappointed with. It doesn't matter to me the reason you have. All I need is the coordinates. That's my girl, he said, turning back to you, placing his bejeweled hand on your shoulder, the fingernails looking more like claws, yellow and sharp. He scampered off to the quarren system. Do you know it? It's been a while, you nod, but I had a job there about a decade ago. For you, I believe. Me and... Well, Intik continued, cutting off your comment as he marched off to his desk, shoving a servant aside for the fun of it, you thought, and sat down in his large throne of a chair. I want him brought back to me unharmed and ready to be wed. What about the girl? You asked. The one he left your lovely niece for. She's already been taken care of. The cold tone with which Intek used told you all you needed to know. When do you need me to leave? Immediately. The urgency, the money, the client, it all combined to lead to your carelessness. And now you're stuck on this planet, and that boy is out there somewhere. He better not be dead. You go to the alcove to lie down, but stop next to the altar to your ancestors and say a prayer, calling on those who came before you and the stars to guide you in the journey tomorrow. Give me the strength and the focus to complete my mission, and the will to exact revenge on those who have wronged me, you say in reverence as you close the prayer and lay down for bed. The next morning, you gear up and step out the cargo doors into the clearing. Creature's carcass has already been properly scavenged, only a few small critters feasting on what little meat is left on the bone. As you head towards the clearing, you see the raider from earlier appear at the edge of the woods, still alone and unarmed. Nevertheless, you point your weapon in his direction. I don't want to fight, his muffled voice calls to you. Doesn't look like you're in a position to, you say, charging your weapon. Or do you have more of your canine friends waiting in the woods to ambush me? Better let them know this rifle here is more accurate and lethal than your toy. I'm alone. Those were my only companions, and our village is several miles from here. We only came because we were hunting in the area and saw an explosion. That nasty trick the bounty pulled on you garnered more trouble than you could have hoped. Well, head back to your kind and leave me to my business, you call out, keeping the raider at a distance. I think I might be able to help you, actually. I can take care of myself, you say, gesturing towards the fallen predator. Very impressive, he responds, but this planet has much more dangerous threats than this little fellow. Little, you think? He's got to be bluffing. A world with no humans is free to grow at will, and that's what this planet is, he continues. I've been here for many years and know all of its secrets. I can help you with tracking down that man you were hunting. That is what you are, right? A bounty hunter? I don't need your help, whatever you are. Call me Malik, and I saw you working on your ship earlier. Fuel cell problem, is it? I can take you to a place where there are fuel deposits you can gather, and I know how to keep you away from danger, too. Who is this guy, you think, before responding? I already know about the deposits, and I work alone. There's nothing out there that scares me, anyways. Maybe not, but without my help, you'll find it quite difficult wherever you're going, and that bounty of yours certainly won't survive on his own. Bet you get paid double if he's alive, don't you? You pause for a bit. You're not from here, you say cautiously. No, I was stranded here some years ago, and you're the first ship to arrive since. Now I saw which way your bounty went, so you see, you need my help. All I ask is for passage off this planet when you succeed. You pause, thinking of whether to go along with this Malik or not. Teaming up has never been a strong suit for you, not from the very beginning. Still, if he has a bead on the bounty, you could still salvage this mess. Which direction did he go? You respond after a long pause. I can't tell you that. You might kill me or leave me stranded. I can assure you, though, I will lead you to him, and the fuel deposits as well. Stingy fellow. You'd do the same, though. You drive a hard bargain, Malik, you say, walking slowly towards him, but keeping the weapon trained in his direction the whole time. No, you don't move. That's the proper distance. The two of you a few yards apart now. I'll let you lead me through this wilderness, but my friend Joe will tell me if you're guiding us off the correct path. The bounty I'll leave to you to guide me on, but I promise you, if you mess me about, I'll shoot you and leave you laying like your friends from earlier. If I don't get the bounty, that's tough luck on me, but I'm getting off this planet regardless. Got it? Understood. Good, you say, and point Malik in the direction Joe mentioned for the fuel deposits. Well, lead on, guide. I should have a weapon, Malik says hesitantly, to defend myself. You don't want to have to take care of me as well as yourself, do you? If whatever's out there kills you, that's just too bad. But I'm not risking you turning a rifle or blade on me. Don't worry, I'll watch out for you. Been doing this a long time. You know my name. What's yours? Cazatriste, you say with a level of self-importance that Malik doesn't ask any more questions. The two of you step out into the forest, and an unease rises in your gut. The journey begins smoothly. You only encounter a few small creatures at first, the docile prey scattering at the sound of your footsteps. The ground feels soft and easy to traverse, the trees providing both cover from the heat of the sun and any predators that might be soaring above them. Joe repeatedly scans the area for threats, but nothing comes up. I thought you said this would be dangerous, you say, following Malik. We haven't made it to the ridge yet, he responds without turning. A mile into the woods, you peek back towards the Fowler, but it's shrouded by the forest you've traversed. How much further to the ridge you mentioned? Eager to find danger, are you? Malik's voice has an unusual amount of confidence for someone being held at gunpoint. No, I just don't like calm. Usually it means something awful is around the corner. It is, he says with that sure confidence. It's not long, and you feel the earth start to become rocky and the trees beginning to become thinner, and you are walking at an incline. At first modest, and then steep. You can see blue skies in the near distance, and then you're standing out on the edge of the forest. You can look out into a great expanse. The sky is a crystal-like color, contrasting against the yellowed and barren landscape below the ridge you stand upon. It's beautiful, isn't it? Malik says, looking out. I'm not interested in the scenery, you retort. Joe's indicating we need to go north a mile before descending the ridge into that valley. And that's why you have me, Malik responds. That valley will lead us into some very dangerous territory. Large beasts dwell there that will make your lizard friend from yesterday look like a plaything. No, we need to descend into the wasteland first and circle around. It'll take us a few more miles, but you'll thank me. I don't like that path. Too open. Who's to say some other raiders might be lurking? We'd be easy prey. I don't doubt your reasoning, but the beasts north of here will make you desire a firefight. Monsters are manageable. They have small minds and singular focuses. Malik shakes his head, and the two of you walk along the narrow ridge, trying not to slip on the rocks as you progress. You notice the sky turn a purplish hue as you near the ridge, and Joe's tracking AI goes nuts. What's that? Nebula haze, Malik responds. They swirl above the planet from time to time. How long do they last? Sometimes days, but mostly just an hour or so. How close are we until we can descend? About 50 meters. Your friend not being helpful right now? Just shut up and lead. Malik takes you to the point where you descend, and you feel that twitch in your gut again. Joe, are you okay? Irrigation system compromised. Wreck down to vital functions. Joe? You respond, but your AI friend has already shut down the communication systems. Navigation, too. You see that your nutrition system is struggling now and targeting has gone on the blink. This is going to be fun. When was the last time something like this happened? Trachea system? Yes. The bounty used an EMP to disable almost every system in your suit. Only oxygen had survived the attack. Who was that bounty? Rickard? No, Valera. Rickard was the one who cut your oxygen line on Goshen. Valera was the science activist, wanted to end reliance on natural fuel deposits and blew up the refinery in the Trachea system. She had a strong following and there was too much support behind her cause for the authorities to get involved. That's why they called you. You came into camp on Trachea 4 disguised as a natural activist. Tricked a known friend of Valera's to let you accompany him. These types will chase a pretty face when it suits them. As soon as you got into the camp, you thought this was just a regular protest group. Nothing violent or dangerous, and Valera seemed like a normal person, only espousing the basic creeds people have for centuries. Nature is alive and deserving of our respect. There are synthetic and renewable alternatives, and we should pursue them instead. When you saw the cache of weapons, though, you knew there was more to the group than just songs and linked arms and slogans. Valera was planning something big, something major, larger than just a refinery. We're going to infiltrate Dye-Alloy Industries and take the entire board hostage, she said to the entire group one evening. Once we have them, they'll have to take us seriously. That evening, you snuck out of the camp to a hideout you'd set up just a mile away. There, you put on your suit and prepared to raid the camp and extract Valera. Having been in the camp for a couple of weeks now, you knew just about every corner and had observed the protesters' habits. Even better, Valera slept alone in a building empty of any major weapons. Careless, you thought. This would be easy. You notified the authorities that you were extracting. They could do cleanup in 1 hour, and you made your way back to the camp. As you moved through the passageways of the encampment, you were nearly caught by the boy who brought you here. You can't remember his name now. Luckily, he'd already moved on from his affections for you, flirting with one of the other camp heroines outside the armory. This could be our last chance, Shauna, you hear him say. We could all be dead by tomorrow if things don't go well. Don't say such things, Dan, Shauna pleaded. Dan! That was his name. The forgettable boy's charm was pretty bland, but it did the trick on Shauna. It made an easy path for you straight to Valera's hut. Got you, you said as you entered and ripped off the covers, but Valera wasn't there. No, you heard her voice from over your shoulder. I've got you. You turned quickly to swing the stun stick, but she'd already activated the EMP by the time you turned around. The blast created a loud, ringing sensation in your ears that brought you prostrate on the ground. With the oxygen intake disabled, you had to unmask to breathe. Valera seized on this vulnerability, kicking you in the face, bloodying your nose. You staggered to your feet, Valera still swinging and wildly connecting with your head as you tried to cover yourself with your hands. The ringing was still intense, and you could see her mouth moving, but what words she said never made it through to you. After about a minute of avoiding her attacks as best you could, you think you could hear her screaming out, "Someone, get in here and kill this woman!" The first person to enter was Dan, and his face looked bewildered at the command as much as the suit of armor you wore. He held a high-powered blaster rifle, but hesitated to shoot, looking at you and searching for answers. "I said kill her, Dan! She's a spy!" You leveled your gun in Dan's direction and fired, blasting him back through the doorway. "I'm not a spy," you say, loading up your stun stick to swing and swiping it across her face, her body collapsing beneath you. As you collected her in your arms, you heard a scream from outside the door. It was Shauna, weeping over Dan's lifeless body. You stepped out, Valera's body slung over one shoulder, and aimed the gun directly at Shauna's face. "Get up and leave, now," you said coldly. "Authorities will bomb this site in less than 10 minutes. "How could you do this, Avery?" she asked. "I'm a bounty hunter, and the name's Cazatriste, silly girl." You turned to leave, but heard the familiar sound of a weapon charge. "Shoot at me, and you might hit your precious leader, girl." "Better than to live as a coward," Shauna said. As the words left her mouth, another protester emerged before you. You purposely shot at his feet to get him to fire at you. Ducking, the shot from him passed by, hitting Shauna. Immediately he fired in his direction, falling the unwitting aide. "Time to go make amends," you say to the still unconscious Valera, and hoist her back on your shoulders as you exit the encampment. Missile fire followed shortly, igniting the small base, the inferno behind you a blazing heat against your back. The reward for Valera was one of the best you'd gotten at the time, 25,000. And she got to be the celebrity she so clearly desired. A life of perpetual parades to the dangers of activism in the galaxy, each time her body more and more emaciated until she disappeared completely. "So you see, Malik," you say, pointing the gun directly under his chin, "I'm not concerned about my equipment going haywire or what lies down in that valley. I have a job to accomplish, and you're going to lead me to its completion. Now move." Malik throws up his hands in defeated acceptance and begins to descend the ridge into a rock-lined pathway. It's not long before you hear the crunching of teeth against bones, and as you come out of the narrow ravine, you see what Malik was warning you about. A monstrous feline creature about twice the size of the lizard you'd fought earlier. Covered in fur, with a gnarled face, it thrashes against the carcass of an equally large lizard creature, not unlike your previous foe. "What you fought yesterday was just a pup," Malik whispered. "There has to be a way past this thing," you whispered back. "The only way forward is directly through this creature's den, unless you would like to go back the way we came and take the path I suggested." "No chance. I'm not going to let an overgrown mongrel like that stop me." "Then what do you suggest? Your blaster might agitate that creature, but its hide is far too thick for much else." You notice a couple of smaller versions of the monster surrounding the carcass, just a little larger than yourself. Her cubs. Looking up above the small brood, you see an overhang from the rock wall. "A mother's desire to protect her own is the easiest path to her downfall," you say, attaching a grenade to the end of your grappling hook and leveling your right arm at the overhang. You press the button on the grenade and pray this tactic works as you fire. Just as the hook hits the mark, the grenade explodes. The rock overhang bursts into flame, and you feel the vibration in your grappling hook shake your arm before it starts to descend from the flames, the end completely obliterated. You retract it and watch on as a massive chunk of rock emerges from the fire and falls rapidly towards the earth. The massive stone crashes to the ground, shaking the earth as it thuds into the middle of the area where the beast's cubs are frolicking. The quake from the impact causes you to lose your balance, but you keep your feet. How many of the young creatures the rockfall maims or kills, you don't know, but the screams of wounded animals cry out in the immediate aftermath. Their sounds are loud enough to you, but nothing in comparison to the roar of the mother. The primal, visceral scream echoes up through the den, causing birds to scatter and every living creature except you and Malik to scurry away in fear. Lunging towards her children, you can see her more clearly now that she doesn't have her face buried in the carcass. The massive beast must be 12 meters long and 6 meters tall, the children only a quarter of the size. She is feline in nature, with two long teeth hanging from the roof of her mouth over her jaw. Her mane is striped red against a white pelt that is peppered with brown spots. Her paws reveal 4 claws on each, sharper than the lizard creature you faced before, you think. Her face drips with the blood of her prey, and eyes beam a brilliant green as she searches over all of her children, trying to ascertain who is alive, who is injured, and who is crushed beneath the fallen stone. Her focus on the children's safety gives you the opening you need, and you dart towards the carcass of the lizard, Malik struggling to keep up with your pace. You make it with ease, and as you duck behind the stinking corpse, you hear the mother's roar turn to a somber yowl. You can see the path from here, and the smell of the carcass masks yours and Malik's scent. Told you this would be easy, you say to Malik. We still have to make it to the passage, and that is a long run. She'll see us before we get there, and you saw her speed. We just need another distraction, you say, pulling another grenade and tossing it back towards the passage you came from. The explosion gets the mother's attention, and she lunges between the flames and her children. You dart off, Malik close behind. Unfortunately, one of the feline's children, scared by the blast, has run in your direction. When it lays eyes on you, you can see its face transform from fear to rage, and its pace quickens into a rush. Keep going, you yell at Malik, turning to fire your weapon at the smaller beast. The first 2 shots hit its shoulders, wounding the animal but not slowing it down. Before you can get a third off, the youth is upon you, knocking your rifle from your hands, clawing at your armor and trying to penetrate your helmet with its much shorter jaws. The smaller beast is still too heavy for you to thrust off. Your armor holds up against the initial barrage, but it's only a matter of time before the creature finds a soft spot and starts to draw blood. Suddenly, a blast comes from the direction of the passage, and the beast slumps over you. Its eyes, still hardened with rage at first, they start to dull as the life leaks out of the beast. You push the cub off of you and notice the shot is right at the crown of its head. A perfect shot through the skull. You turn and see Malik, rifle still pointed in the beast's direction. Or is it at you? You jog over to him and take the gun back with little resistance. Great shot, Mal, you say before another roar comes from over your shoulder. The mother has noticed the 2 of you now and begins to thunder in your direction, her 3 remaining cubs trailing with her. Run on, you say to Malik, rushing the direction of the charging pride. I'll take care of this. You're suicidal, he says after you, and that might be true, but you're not going to make it to the passage before she gets to you. Better to just face her head on. You either miraculously survive or die stupid and brave. That seems to be your way of living. You can feel the thundering of the mother's feet more than you can hear them, and that's when you play your gambit. Pulling another grenade from your belt harness, you lob it at the ground in front of her and shoot. Another explosion, bursting from the earth, you are thrown immediately back from the force of the blast. Landing on your back, you can see the mother has avoided the blast, but that's a part of the plan. The cubs are halted in fear where the blast occurred. You begin firing directly at the stationary targets, felling one of the cubs immediately before the other 2 begin to scatter towards their mother. Her instincts kicking in, the mother diverts her approach from attacking to defense, attempting to put herself between the cubs and your blaster fire. Gotcha, you say, hurling your last grenade in the direction she's going. You follow the toss with repeated gunfire, connecting at just the right time, the grenade exploding as the mother comes within the blast's epicenter. The flames burn through her face, and the explosion of sound hurls her to the ground. You hear her cry out in agony as she writhes on the earth, the smell of burnt fur and flesh filling the open air. Her two remaining cubs circle around her in a panic at first, but her thrashing accidentally swipes one of them with her claws, and the poor young creature is flung to its death, a pool of blood emerging from its throat. The remaining cub retreats to the covered den across the way, huddling alone and afraid at the terror that has befallen it. You pull yourself up and walk towards the writhing animal, its screams more and more agonizing as you draw near. Finally, you're close enough for a clear shot, and you blast it several times in the head. The animal twitches for a moment before going limp, the flame still consuming its lifeless head. You look towards the den, but the lone cub isn't a threat, hiding behind one of the rock outcroppings. You turn back to the passage and see that Malik is waving for you to hurry. You start to run, but feel the aches from the blast that separated you from the mother's advance. Malik runs out to help you, taking your right arm and putting it over his shoulder. The two of you move as quickly as possible towards the exit. "We have to hurry," he says nervously. "Scavengers are already assembling, and those blasts will probably draw the nearby tribes this way, too." You look up and see around 20 large, featherless birds assemble along the ridge. The sun illuminates them perfectly, revealing a pocked and boil-ridden skin. Their necks, long and crooked, crane down towards the dead mother and her fallen cubs. A once great pride, now the feast of the dregs of nature, Malik opines. "Better them than us," you say as you reach the passage and turn westward again towards the fuel deposits. "We'll have to find cover," Malik says. "You're too wounded to make the next leg of the trek." "I'll be fine once this nebula thing passes," you respond. "My suit's med pack has pain relievers it can inject me with. I don't think anything is broken or sprained, so we'll be good to go." "The nebula might not pass for hours," Malik says while looking for signs of shelter. "By then, it'll be too late to proceed. I say we find a place to rest. It's already past midday, and nighttime on this planet is treacherous. Better to settle in and wait to progress in the morning." "If you say so, Mal," you answer, and the pain in your right side starts to make you woozy. That cub must have gotten one of its claws through after all. Your head starts to sweat with fever, and you feel more nauseous than ever. You take your helmet off, hoping the fresh air will recover you. At first, the breeze against your skin is pleasant, but the odors of the forest, pungent and ripe, cause you to gag. You pitch forward and begin to heave, vomiting on the earth beneath you. You think you see blood mixed with it. "What's wrong?" Malik says, trying to bring you back to your feet, but you push him off. "Don't touch me!" you yell over your shoulder, but Malik persists, putting his hand against your head. "You're burning up," he says, and goes to collect you in his arms. "I said, don't touch me," you shout, pointing your rifle directly under his masked chin. "If you kill me, that's fine," he says coolly, the dark circles of his mask where his eyes would be seeming to pierce your own. "But if you do, you'll be dead before your friend can come back online." "Who are you?" you say, starting to feel as though the whole earth is spinning around you. "The only one who can keep you alive," he says before everything goes black. You're alone in a dark, expansive room, your body lit by an unseen light, but nothing else can be seen. Your armor, it's gone, replaced with a floor-length gown. Your arms exposed, revealing a litter of tattoos descending from your shoulders to your wrists. All the same thing. Rose petals. Representations of past bounties. Red mostly, with a few white petals interspersed here and there. A black rose petal dots the back of your left hand. You don't want to think of that one. "It will come to you," You hear a whispered voice call to you from beyond the black space. What will? You respond, your voice sounding like that of a child, and you realize that you've transformed into your younger self, the floor-length gown pouring out around your small body. The tattoos are gone now, but blood and soot stain the gown. Payment, the voice calls again, seemingly from above you, but you can't see anything. For what? Your voice now that of a young woman, about 10 years younger than your current self. You now wear armor, but it's not the same as your current suit. Older and less useful, something a child would have put together. You feel the restrictive nature of it and struggle to move. That which you stole. The voice now behind you, causing you to turn, but nothing is there, only the darkness. You hear a familiar laugh echo through the space. It will come to you, Triste. The name. Alice's name for you. Where are you? Here, the voice says, and you feel a stabbing pain pierce your right side. You can't see him, but you feel the warmth of his breath against your neck as he plunges the dagger deep into your body. You try to struggle, but your hands and feet are bound by chains, pulling you down into the darkness, the blade still present in your side. Goodbye, Triste. You sit up with a start and yell, Aleph, no! Quiet now, Alex says, coming over to you to settle you down. Your armor is stripped to the waist and you see a bandage over your right side as you look down. Looking around, you're in a small cave, just big enough for the two of you, and a small fire to reside. Outside, a misting of rain falls, and you can see from the puddles beyond the entrance to the cave, it has been raining for some time. You feel a throbbing in your head as though you'd been struck by a rock from inside of your skull. It'll clear up soon, you hear Malik say as he hands you an earthen bowl with some kind of aromatic drink in it. You wonder if he's talking about the rain or your headache. This'll help clear your head, he says, and you take it from him and drink. What have you done? You say, still woozy and confused. Had to get your armor off to see what was causing the fever. You were scratched by the cub. Those creatures secrete poison from their claws. Nothing that can kill, but over time it weakens their prey. Makes it easy for them to defeat larger animals. I've had experience with this situation in the past. Found some Liliman dew and Harith sprout to put on it. It looks like it's doing the trick. He puts a hand to your head. Your fever's broken, and so is the nebula. Your little friend in your armor should be ready to boot back up. Why did you help me? I want off this planet the same as you. I can't do that without you, and I wasn't going to carry a corpse back to your ship. Haven't flown in years, and your star cruiser looks beyond my depth anyways. Think of my service to you as payment for getting off this planet. That and locating your bounty once we get the fuel. That boy's probably dead by now, you say, as you pull your armor back on and boot Joe back up. You never know. The resilience of the human spirit can be an impressive thing if properly motivated. Well, his motivation has been eliminated, unless he wants revenge for his lover's death. Sounds like a fairly decent motivation to me. After all, didn't he bury you in the rubble? You look at Malik sideways and put your helmet back on. Joe, how far are the deposits? 3 miles, though you'll have to do a bit of trudging. Looks like swampy territory ahead. Is there a way around the swamp, you ask Malik. Yes, he responds, but you'd have to backtrack and go the way I recommended. I don't want to retread steps. Anything ahead of us like those big cats earlier? I can't say. The clan I hunt with doesn't tread into that place. Well, you'll be able to tell them all about it, won't you? Not if you hold up your end of the bargain, he says, tossing you the rifle. You wonder why he didn't try to turn the tables on you just now. I don't need a gun to survive, remember? He says, seeming to know your question. I've got you. Thanks. The two of you gear up and exit the cave as the mist dissipates. Who's Aleph? he asks as you make a start of it. What? You respond, pretending not to hear him. You called out to someone named Aleph when you woke. They some friend of yours? An old acquaintance, you say, covering the area just above your left wrist. The path to the swamp is serene, and the biome is a beautiful picture of the chaos of nature. Trees winding in and out of the water, moss and vines stretching everywhere. The water is green and filmy, almost looking like clean-cut grass. We can walk across the limbs, you say. Joe will pick up anything large enough to eat us before it can try. Looks like we have a mile to go and then we'll be through. The two of you begin to cross from limb to limb, taking care not to stumble or knock anything loose into the water. You lead the way with the assistance of Joe. Large fish-like creature shadowing you, Joe says. As long as he stays in the water, we'll stay on dry land, you respond. Hey, Malik? But there's no response. You turn back, and he's nowhere to be found. Malik! You yell out, and you hear a rustling above near the top of the tree line. About 10 feet above you, you see Malik dangling upside down, his foot caught in a snare. Some assistance would be appreciated, Malik says frustratedly. You go to climb the tree, but think for a moment. Joe, how far are the deposits now? Just over 2 miles. And the terrain beyond the swamp? Fairly navigable, some hilly terrain, but mostly serene, I would say. I think this is where we leave each other, Mal. You can't do this, Malik yells back. I saved your life. And I appreciate it, but I'm better off alone, you say, turning to navigate to the next tree limb. You won't get the bounty, he says, twisting in the rope snare. Like I said, he's probably dead by now. Even if he wasn't, you have no idea where he ran off to beyond the direction you saw him go. He's right where I left him. You pause. What? Tied up in a tree just beyond the clearing. I told one of my fellow hunters to see to it that he was protected and well fed while we were gone. You bastard liar! Look who's talking. I can just kill you now and retrieve him when I go back. Don't think so. If you return without me, my hunter friend will cut his throat before you can find him. You fume, looking up at Malik. How do I know you're not lying? You don't. You'll just have to trust me, he says, and lets out a laugh. One far too similar to your liking. Hold on, you say through gritted teeth as you start to ascend the tree. Nearing the point where the rope loops above the branch, you climb up and tie off the rope to the tether wire from your broken grappling hook. You pull tight and cut through the rope, Malik's body weight pulling hard on you at first, but you're properly braced on the branch. You hear some rustling in the tree next to you and see a humanoid figure staring at you, with a long pole held to its mouth and aimed in your direction. A blow dart gun. The projectile shoots out towards you, embedding itself in your armor, but not deep enough to penetrate to the skin. The dart is feathered at the end with a point similar to the feline monster you defeated. You hear several other darts whiz past you and realize you're under attack. With Malik occupying your right arm, you fire your weapon as best you can, but your aim keeps getting thrown off from the weight distribution as Malik swings beneath you. Can you please try to stay still? I'm not in a position to do much of anything right now, he yells back. 2 more darts pierce your armor in safe areas. Eventually, one of these darts is going to hit the mark, and you'll both be in trouble. We're going to have to jump, you yell down to the dangling Malik. Too bad I don't have buoyancy regulators on this suit, you think. You fire a few more times through the trees, hitting one of your assailants. You watch his body fall towards the water, splashing down and sending a sludge of green and gray water into the air. Moments later, you see a large purple and turquoise shimmering back emerge from the water around where the body fell. Now's the time to go. Get ready, Mal, you yell as you leap from the branch and the two of you plunge into the swampy water below. The wire tethering you and Malik together catches on a branch, keeping you both from sinking too far beneath the swampy waters. You grab onto a branch just below the surface. You start to pull yourself up and are soon above the water's line. Where's Mal? The line is heavy and unmoving. He must have gotten knocked out from the fall. Looking back to where the fish was, you see a swirling of the water and then the hump of the creature's back. How long do I have, Joe? The amphibious creature is moving at a speed that will put it on top of Malik's position in just under 30 seconds. Of course, he'll probably have drowned by the time it eats him. Is that supposed to be a joke, Joe? You say, trying to get a position where you can have some leverage. No, just factual data. You start to retract the tether, and it doesn't take long for Malik's legs to appear above the water. You got up to his chest out of the water when the line snags. 10 seconds until the fish reaches Malik. What am I going to do? 5, 4, 3. Before Joe can get to 2, you plunge head first into the water, full retraction on until you see Malik emerge from the water. Then you cut the wire. Sinking down, you see the beast diverting its approach from Malik to you. Its bulbous body is propelled forward by a wide rudder of a tail. In the water, it doesn't have the shimmering colors you saw on its back. Just a dark, shadowy blob getting ever closer as you sink even further. This can't be how you die. You have to have something that can save you. The fish comes close, its mouth agape, and suddenly you're swallowed into darkness. Inside the mouth of the fish, its throat sucks the water towards it, leaving you bouncing between the roof of the creature's mouth and its tongue. Sliding towards the back of the throat, you try to engage your gun, but it's jammed from being immersed in the water. No grenades either. All you have is your stun stick and throwing knives, the latter useless against this creature's thick skin. As you near the tonsils of the beast, you pull the stun stick from your leg harness and engage the electric pulse, turning it to its highest level. Your armor might not absorb all of that impulse, Cazatriste. Better than being digested in this thing's belly, you say, swinging the baton at the back of the monster's throat. You feel the vibration of electricity go through your body, but it doesn't fry Joe or you. The beast lets out a wail and opens its mouth, more water flooding in on top of you. You swing again, and the jolt becomes more intense as the water electrifies, but the beast writhes even more as well. You feel its trajectory shift, and suddenly you see daylight as the beast opens its mouth. A surging force propels you from the creature's mouth, and you land against a tree and slide down onto a small patch of land. Your body still twitching from the electric shock, you force your hand to disengage from the stick, and you can breathe again. Your pulse is very erratic, Joe says. Recommend elevating your legs and lying on your back for at least 5 minutes. No time for that, you pant out, looking around for Malik. You see him lying on the branch about 100 yards from you. You start to gather yourself, but your body doesn't want to move properly. Your legs and arms are tingling and your feet feel numb. Suddenly, one of the tree dwellers drops down in front of you, his body covered in fur, but face not unlike a human. His long blow dart gun hangs at his side as he towers over you. You notice a design shaved into his chest, the image of a large fish creature. Oh, great. I attacked their god and now they're going to murder me for it, you think. Instead, the man creature drops to his knees and bows prostrate before you. You're taken aback at the gesture, which is followed by chanting in some language you can't understand. Joe, what are they saying? The dialect is crude, but the intonation in his voice is that of a prayer. Prayer? You repeat confusedly, and you then see more of the men beasts emerge, descending down the trunks of the trees and finding places to replicate the original's positioning and cadence. What are they doing? Worshipping you, Malik calls out, having come to his knees. It's not every day that someone defeats a god in battle. One of the tree dwellers rises and makes his way to Malik, helping him up and bringing him to where you are sitting. Do you know their language? You ask as he is set down beside you. Some. Enough to know they think you are important. Well, I'm not, you protest, trying to stand up, but your legs are still not in complete working order. Better to stay still for now, Malik advises. There's a great chance that they are going to lead us out of this swamp and closer to your destination. One of the tree dwellers rises up and begins to speak in a normal cadence. What's he saying? I think he wants to take you to their village to honor you. If I'm not mistaken, it's at the edge of the swamp, in the direction of where we're going. Well, a little hospitality never went amiss, but I still can't stand. Malik speaks in what you presume to be their native tongue, and two of the beastmen rise and begin to pick you up. They start along the branches again, their cadence sounding like a song of revelry to you. I bet you didn't think you'd be carried around like royalty when you got to this planet, Malik calls out from behind you as he follows. I didn't expect a lot of things, you say over your shoulder. Entering the beastmen's village, the place is a collection of wood-framed huts with thatched roofs. The huts surround a giant clearing in the middle with a fire pit. You can see iconography of the large fish creature you foiled earlier, emblazoned on the roofs and doors over every hut. Poles erected throughout the camp have hand-carved wooden fish atop them. You can feel the tingling sensation in your legs start to subside, and you can move your feet easily. Shouldn't be much longer until you can fully move your legs. The beastmen sit you down in the clearing in front of the largest of the huts, a more ornate and elaborate built structure, and one of them rushes to enter it. Two large wooden fish sculptures bookend the doorframe of the large facility, and the doors have the painting of the fish in a grand leaping gesture upon it. Smaller fish sculptures are set at the four corners of the hut, and a fish tail serves as the highest point of the hut, the highest point of the village. An old gray-haired beast-man emerges from the large hut, adorned in what seems to be a ceremonial robe meant to imitate the fish creature the village worships. He carries a spear with him, shaped like that of a fish skeleton. No, it's made from one. He sits next to you, Malik standing off to your side, and begins to speak. He says that he's heard of your exploits with their god, Malik translates. How you outsmarted the wise Pesoma? I think that's what they call it. Can you tell him I didn't mean to offend their god? Malik takes his time, stuttering out a response to the elder. By the elder's nodding, first to Malik and then to you, it seems your response is adequate. The elder stands and begins to speak loudly to the villagers assembled. You guess that there is at least 100, all included, men, women, and children. He's saying that because Pesoma is subservient to you, they must do also. They are prepared to do anything you ask in return. Malik's voice starts to trail off near the end as though he is worried at what you might ask. I just want to leave and go to the fuel deposit so I can get back to my bounty and ship as soon as possible. Malik sighs and begins to translate, but the elder in the village seem to be upset at this. They say they must pay tribute to you. You must receive honor for your victory. I don't want any honor. I just want to move on. The chief begins speaking again. He says the honor ceremony will take 5 days. I can't wait around in the village for 5 days. I'm already behind schedule. Intik will kill me if I'm gone that long, and I doubt your hostage taker will still be protecting my bounty by then either. He'll stay until I return. Like I trust you, and I don't care. We're leaving as soon as I can stand. You notice the villagers all looking at you, stoic and reverent. They want an answer, Malik says. You pause and think for a moment. What could get them distracted enough to allow for you to slip off without notice, or at least without resistance? You look around and the fish iconography sparks your mind. Tell them to go and hunt their fish god. Kill it, and bring it back to me as a sacrifice. What? I defeated the monster. They clearly think of me as greater than it. They want to honor me. They must rid themselves of all other allegiances. Malik doesn't say anything for a moment, the entire village's eyes on his masked face. Say it, Mal. Just, please. Do it now, or I'll have them sacrifice you. Malik awkwardly translates the message, and the crowd are at first upset. But the village elder shakes his fishbone spear to rally them into submission. He yells out to the village, and the men who carried you here begin to head to their huts. They are gathering themselves to go and do as you say. Good. That means only the women, children, and elderly should remain. We can leave once the hunters are far enough away. Malik shakes his head and starts to converse with the elder. What are you saying to him? Just how thankful you are to be honored by them, Malik says, his tone more spiteful than before. Your right leg feels almost completely recovered, and you can move your left leg below the knee as the hunters step back off into the forest. Tell them to make a fire, you command Malik. Why? That'll bring them all to the clearing. They can't go warn the hunters if we have them all in one place and tied up. Is that what you're planning on doing? Just do it, Mal. It's Malik. And I'm Cazatriste. Now do as I say. Your shouting has already brought all the remaining villagers from the huts. Malik gives the command, and like ants, they obediently comply. By the time the fire is built, both of your legs feel in working order. You come to your feet and charge your weapon. Pointing at the elder, you blast him through the chest, knocking the old man back into the fire. The villagers jump back in a panic, but 2 shots into the air keep them in their place. Tell them to all go into the shrine. You said we were tying them up. Tell them, or I'll shoot them all. And you. Malik instructs them, and they follow his commands, though more reticently than before. Once inside, you place the bone spear in the handles of the double doors. Tell them Cazatriste does not want their honor, and if they come for me, I'll strike them down with the vengeance that has led to their god and elder's demise. I thought you were going to. Just translate it, and let's go, you say, already starting in the direction of the fuel deposits. I don't understand, Malik says, catching up to you after translating to the huddled villagers. If I killed them all, their men would be bloodthirsty for revenge. This way, they'll simply know that the force that killed their god isn't to be trifled with. You really are a cunning, ruthless creature. No, you say, marching forward without looking at Malik. I'm a bounty hunter. How far until we reach the fuel deposits, Joe? Less than 1 mile. Based on the terrain and your condition, I'd say you'll be there in less than an hour. Gives us some time to talk, seeing as this leg of the trip seems so peaceful. What would you like to discuss? Joe asks. Not you, Joe. Take a nap, you say, clicking him off. Where are you originally from, Mal? A small planet near the edge of Republic space. Doubt you know it. Try me. I've been all over. The Republic calls it Interstitial Orbiter 47.5. Oh, a numbered planet. You really are from the edge of civilized space. My people know it as Finto. Never been there. You got me. What about you? I'm not done asking the questions, you say, gesturing your gun in Malik's direction. Tell me about Finto. It was once a planet like this, though less wild. Not as many dangerous creatures. Humans thrived and lived simple and quiet lives. And then the mining companies came. Our planet was rich in fuel deposits, same kind as where we're going now. They fooled our elders and raped our land so they could extract the precious fuel. My father knew what was happening, so he found us a transport off the planet through one of the mining companies. Only, yes, one of the miners took a liking to my mother, tried to have his way with her. My father fought with him, and the 2 men ended up killing each other in the tussle. My father by blaster shot, the miner by a knife to the gut. All right in front of me. After that, the mining company abandoned us at the next civilized port, Zenith. Not the kind of place you want to raise a family, much less a single parent. What happened there? At first, my mother found small jobs working for tradesmen, but the money was never enough to both feed and house us. Plus, the crime syndicates there charged protection taxes on all of their citizens. Being refugees, we got double taxed. Wasn't long before she took to selling herself at night while I slept across the room. Or tried to sleep. That went on for a few years. Then one day, she didn't come home. I waited a few days before the landlord chucked me out. I was only 10. Spent the next few years living on the streets, thieving for food and sleeping in alleyways. When I was old enough, I left on the first ship that would hire me. And what did you do once you left? Several odd jobs, but eventually I became a pilot. Pretty good, actually. Got to where my main position was to escort frigates through dangerous space. Dealt with pirates and rogue groups. I felt like a real adventurer, the kind they print in the magazines. Is that how you ended up here? Did one of your escort missions go wrong? Malik hesitated, almost searching now for the memory. We were escorting some conservationists through this zone so they could document unaffected planets. I think it was a bounty hunter hired by the mining lobby that attacked us. Don't look at me, you say defensively. I've never been to this system. Anyways, that was years ago, and I've been here ever since. How many years? Lost track, to be honest. Without a stardate tracker, you're at the mercy of the orbit of the planet you're on, and this one seems to be pretty slow. What about you? Malik asks after a long silence. Kinda like you, I'm an orphan, you respond abruptly. Raised by the bounty hunter who killed my parents. Didn't know that at the time, of course. Thought he was my dear old Uncle Aleph, who rescued me when my parents were killed by invaders. We lived on one of the rogue planets during the war. My parents were supporters of the cause. Got themselves in a firefight and ended up dead. Aleph raised me to be a bounty hunter from the age of 8. I assisted him, set up his bounties, made sure his equipment was ready, ship fueled, even went on some bounties with him to learn. Eventually, we teamed up. How long did you work with him? 10 years. That's when I found out who he was. Uncovered information about him that revealed he wasn't my uncle, and he'd botched the bounty on my father. Vowed to get revenge on him from that day forward. How'd you do it? Get revenge. One thing that bounty hunters accrue more than bounties is enemies. I set up a fake bounty for us to go on. Used one of his less savory contacts, Tal Intik. The man you're working for now? Yeah. Apparently my uncle, mentor, whatever he was, had been on the bad side of Intik for several years. Never would take any bounties from him, at least as long as I was with him. Even undermined a couple jobs of Intik's. When I brought the idea of getting rid of him to Intik, he bit at it. So we went to the system, Kitropia. I know it. Huge trade planet, lots of mining and commerce hubs. Exactly. The scam was that there was a Republic diplomat there that had crossed Intik. Not only would Intik pay us 20K each for the man dead or alive, but the diplomat would have at least 20,000 credits on him as well. It was a bonus for us. The haul was sweet. Too sweet, and Aleph almost balked at it. Intik pushed him over the edge, though. Mentioned some private information about the diplomat that cut home to Aleph. What was it? The information. Aleph never mentioned it to me. Anyways, we got to the system, touched down in the city where the target was supposed to be located. Set everything up like normal, but I could tell Aleph had a strange feeling. His demeanor was unsure, real jumpy. You think he knew? I don't know. Maybe. I think the info he got from Intik unsettled him, though. Could have been that. So how did it happen? Did you kill him? No, though I wanted to. Intik made it clear he wanted Aleph for himself. I just have to be happy with the money from the bounty. We got the engagement point, an old warehouse district on the edge of the city. We prepped for the entry like normal. He'd scan the building, throw a couple of smoke grenades, and we'd rush in and grab the guy. Everything went smoothly, but once we breached the building, there was no diplomat to be found. Just a group of Intix thugs. He got one with a blaster rifle, but the others subdued him with relative ease, sacked him up, and carted him off to a ship on the other side of the warehouse. Did you at least get to tell Aleph you knew what he had done? Who he was? No. I was so shocked at the efficiency of the operation by Intix men. I think I stood there for an hour processing the whole thing. I do remember he said something to me, though. What was that? Please. He just said, please. So that's when you became your own woman, Malik says after a long pause. Far from it, though you could say it's where I got my start. The money from the bounty helped finance the Fowler, and selling off his ship is what got me the armor. 10 years later, here I am. Still, must have been pretty hollow not getting to confront the man with what you knew, face to face. Tell him what you really thought of him? You can't be ruled by your emotions. You focus your gaze on Malik at this utterance, wishing you could see any part of his face beyond the mask. That's what Aleph used to tell me. Sounds like a calloused individual. Probably better off without him around anymore. I am, but he's not the only one who lives by those words. Intik doesn't care about the emotions of others. He just wants jobs done precisely and to his liking. That's why I have to get to this fuel deposit soon and get back to the boy. Otherwise, I'll be on Intik's list like Aleph was. I promise, I'll repay you for keeping the bounty alive and helping me out. Freeing me of this planet is all the payment I need, Malik responds. So what's with the mask? And the hoses in the tank, you ask, changing the subject as the two of you start to ascend a hill. I can tell it isn't fitted to help you breathe, and this atmosphere isn't harmful to humanoids anyways. My face is disfigured. In the engagement above this planet, I took heavy damage. It was all I could do to land the thing without exploding. The ship was beyond repair in the end, and so was my face. I made this mask over time to replace what I once was, but also to give me an identity within this world. The tank holds an herbal liquid that the hoses vaporize. My throat and lungs were burned badly in the crash, and the remedy in the tank helps with the pain. Maybe you can replace it with something less ugly when we get off this orb, you say half-jokingly. Maybe. As he says this, you come to the crest of the hill. Another larger hill lay before you, though this one has several rock formations jutting out of it. Their color, a brilliant amethyst, is the telltale sign of fuel deposits. You see a cave at the base of the rocky hill, and turn Joe back on to confirm this to be the desired location. Affirmative. Within the cave you will find the fuel deposits. Fair warning, fuel slugs often linger around these types of deposits. Thanks, Joe. I know that already. Then tell Malik. I'm guessing you've heard of fuel slugs? Yes. Very dangerous, but slow. Your blaster won't be much help with their thick hides, though. Exactly. We'll need a distraction. That's where you come in, you say, leveling the blaster at Malik. You'll go in first and make sure the coast is clear. If we're lucky, they'll be napping, or not even there. If not, I'll cover you and do what I can to keep them distracted from attacking you while you get the deposits. You really are a heartless individual. No, you say. I'm your way off this planet. You want to escape? Do things my way, Mal. You follow Malik, keeping several paces between you. Fuel slugs don't move fast, but their attacks are sudden and direct. If he gets eaten, you'll at least have the chance to regroup before entering alone. At the entry to the cave, Malik looks back over his shoulder, the unease in his posture causing you to raise your gun more directly. I'm right behind you. Get in there and tell me what you see. Quietly, though. Those things are Sensitive to noise, I know. His voice matches his posture, and you think to pull him back and go in alone. But he steps into the darkness and disappears. A few seconds pass without a word or noise. The slugs make a screeching sound when they attack, so no sound is good. No slugs, he yells out. Really? You question, beginning to make your way to the cave's mouth. As you enter, you turn on your night vision. He's right. Nothing in here but the fuel deposits. I'll fill the container so we can get out of here, he says, but something doesn't feel right to you. Joe, run a life form scan on the cave. Anything bigger than me or Malik. Look, need to... What's going on? Is it another nebula thing? Probably the crystals that line the cave, Malik responds, suddenly right beside you. They can affect comms links. I'll just go outside then, you say, stepping away from Malik, but he cuts you off. I don't think so, Tristy. That name. He almost said it earlier, but now he's unburdened himself from the facade. Aleph, your voice says the hint of both shock and confirmation. I knew it was you. I just thought you'd be smarter than to reveal yourself before you had the upper hand. At this, you prepare to fire your rifle, but he grabs hold of the barrel and directs your aim to the cave wall. The rifle blast ricochets off the crystal enclosure, bouncing around several times before hitting a seemingly viscous piece of earth near the back of the cave. You're going to get us both killed, he says, but you don't care. You start ripping at his mask, wanting to prove what you already know. He's Aleph, the man you betrayed, the man who killed your parents, the man who will come for payment. It's you, isn't it? You bastard! How could you lead me on like this the whole time? You knew it was me. Why didn't you just kill me? Why didn't you take your revenge? Stop! He yells back at you, shoving you off into the ground. The gun falls from your grasp and he scoops it up as you land at the edge of one of the deposits. Go ahead, Aleph, you say, taking off your helmet. Kill me. But take off that ridiculous mask and show me your face while you do it. Look me eye to eye, you murderer. We don't have time for this, he says, still unwilling to admit his identity. We need to get the fuel and get back to the ship. I'm not taking you off the planet with me now. You settle your tone behind gritted teeth as you come to your feet, your hand slipping out the emergency flare from your back pocket. You can get the fuel yourself and kill me if you want off this planet. I don't want to kill you. We just need to get to the fuel and leave so we can talk. I have nothing to say to you, you yell, lighting the emergency flare and pointing it in his direction. Put that out, Cazatriste, he says, still aiming the gun at you. Don't worry, you say. Fuel deposits aren't very flammable, unless a flame directly touches them, of course. And with that, you hold the flare close to one of the deposits, the sparks flickering precariously at the edge of the pool. You'll kill us both, he says, engaging the gun to max power and aiming it directly at your chest. Go ahead, you say coolly. Miss, and that blast will ignite the pool. Hit me, and the flare goes right in with me. Like you said, we'll both die once the fuel starts to burn. Rumbling from the back of the cave distracts you both, and you notice him lower the gun just enough. You rush forward and lunge into him, tackling the raider, the gun sliding off into another pool before you can get a hold of it. Damn it! You yell out, but the rumbling from the back of the cave is now accompanied by a screech. Fuel slugs! We've got to get out of here, he says, his body still trapped beneath your own. You pull your helmet back on and turn on the night vision feature, revealing 4 large fuel slugs slithering directly towards you, faces that seem only to be mouths with teeth and bodies that undulate and writhe with a unified purpose towards their intruders. You take the canister and start to fill it up. There's no time for that now, he says as he comes to his feet. I didn't come all the way here to get bested by a few giant worms, you say over your shoulder. Go on and leave, Aleph. I don't need you. Haven't needed you for a decade. You ornery little magpie. The phrasing breaks you for a moment as he comes behind you and picks up the still burning flare. Tossing it in the direction of one of the pods nearest to the slugs, he grabs you by the arm. The sparkling torch hurtles through the cave, its flames interacting masterfully with the purple crystals that line the walls, causing a brilliant refraction of color that pierces through the darkness. It passes over the top of one of the slug's bodies, revealing the prickly nubs that they use to propel themselves, each one wriggling with agitation. Finally, the torch meets its intended destination, the center of the deposit pool. For an instant, there is nothing, just the sound of the flare and the writhing and screeching of the beasts. Then, an explosion of flame erupts from the deposit, a pillar of heat and ignited gas that burst against the roof of the cave before folding over onto the slugs. Their screeches turn from agitation to agony as they begin to writhe not unlike the feline beast from before. The hulking bodies of the four shield the two of you from the initial blast, but the flames spread faster and faster, closer and closer. "We have to go, Tristy," he yells, pulling you to your feet, and the two of you run towards the mouth of the cave. Another pool explodes, and the cave gets hotter, and the screeching of the slugs has dissipated into the inferno. You can feel the flames hot on your back, Aleph leading the way, clenching your wrist as he pulls you towards freedom. Another explosion, and you feel the flames starting to surround you. You're so close, and you hear Joe's voice. "Temperance bears nearing capacity." As you feel the flames beginning to engulf you, you see a light just over Aleph's shoulder, his leather mask starting to bubble at the back and clothes singeing. "Leap, Tristy!" You hear the words, and as though you were a child again, you simply obey. Your feet effortlessly elevate from the ground, your body suspended in air. Suddenly, a final explosion rockets from behind you, and you feel the force of the blast push you through the cave mouth back into the open air, hurtling your body at least 10 yards from the mouth as flames erupt from the cave and several cracks that have formed in the hillside thanks to the explosions. You can still feel the heat above you, but you're still alive and you're not on fire. Temperature is still elevated, but no burning of your skin. "Thanks, Joe." You look over to Aleph. He's lying face down against the grass, and there's smoke rising from his prone body. His clothes are still slightly smoldering, and the leather in his mask is charred and cracked a bit at the back. You see a rising of his back to indicate he's still breathing, though it's very faint. "Ornery little magpie," Aleph says as he picks you up from the deck of the ship. "What's that mean?" you say, rubbing your scraped knee. "It's a bird, very intelligent and very naughty. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. No, I'm sure rummaging through the converter hold is what all little girls love to do. I just wanted to work on my project." "And what is that?" Aleph says, seating you on the tabletop while he goes to get some medicine for your wound. "I want to create a computer for my helmet, one that learns and tells me what's going on when we're on the hunt." "You're only 12, Tristy," Aleph says as you wrap your knee in gauze. "You're not going out on any hunts with me anytime soon." "I've already put my suit together," you say, hopping down from the table and trying out your knee. "Good as new." "Let me show you, Allie." You grab Aleph by the hand, and the two of you head to your small quarters, more of a cove than an actual room. The armor you've made is a near replica of his, metallic gray with green and red stripes painted on the shoulders, the symbol of the bounty hunter's religion. 2 roses, one red, one white, on a thorny vine, in the middle of the chest plate. "Looks like you've done a fine job," Aleph says, examining the suit. "He even made sure to separate the armor plates at the joints to allow for ease of movement. I've been looking over yours every day." "And what's this?" Aleph says, looking inside the helmet. "It's the interface for my computer. I've been uploading data into it so it'll think and act like a human. Well, mostly. When I talk to it now, it's pretty dull. Needs a personality chip. Don't worry about that. You'll go mad having some chipper or angry voice rolling around in your head when you're in the field. All I need are a few components and a little more programming, and it'll be ready to go. I really think I can help you if you give me the chance. You already helped me by getting my supplies ready and monitoring things from the ship. That's boring, though. I want to get involved. I want to get out there with you." Aleph sighs, looking down at you through the strands of hair covering his eyes. He brushes the mop back and ties it into a bun. You do the same. Look at us, he says with a chuckle. Twins. I'm much prettier, though. That's true, he says, feeling the scar that cuts just from below his left eye down to his chin. You might end up with one of these one day. I don't mind scars. I'll probably get one from this, you say, pointing at your bandaged knee. Not quite the same, Aleph says with a wry smile, tilting his head just a little as he considers your plea for involvement. Tell you what, get those components you need, and once you've got your computer all fixed up, you can join me on the next hunt. Yes, you say, pumping your fists with excitement before running off back to the converter hold. And Tristy, Aleph calls to you, causing you to spin mid-stride, nearly banging your head against the fuselage. I'm proud of you. You beam back at him with a huge smile and run off to get the parts you need. Aleph, you say, kneeling over the body of your masked mentor, patting out what few embers are still burning on his back. Wake up, Aleph! He groans but doesn't move. Scan him for vitals, Joe. Several burns on the back, arms, and legs. Severe in places. His heart rate is low, but stable. Recommendation is immediate medical treatment. I'm not going back the way I came. Is there another route I can take to the ship? Looking up at the sky, you guess you've got a few hours until dark. The route that Malik suggested. It's Aleph, Joe, you say, your voice starting to break. It's my dad. Your father was killed by Aleph. I know that, but he's the one who raised me. I can't let him die like this. As I was saying, the route that he suggested earlier is 8 miles, but should be easy going. Past these hills, you'll have to cross a stream before coming to a small forest that thins out into the wasteland. Normally, that would take a few hours, but carrying him, you'll need to double that. It'll be dark by then. One other path would be to try the ridgeline. It's more direct and would bypass everything you traversed before. Why didn't we take that route the first time? My calculations show it to be a very narrow path with several dangerous turns. It also seems that several species of large predatory birds nest there. And all I have left is my stun stick. My recommendation is to take the wasteland path. Visibility is clearer, so even at night you'll be able to see any predators or danger. And they'll be able to see us too. Fair point. You look down at Aleph. No way you'll be able to make it through a narrow path like the ridgeline with him on your back. We'll have to take the wasteland route. The way towards the wasteland is easy. The rolling hills give you a bit of trouble with Aleph slung over your shoulders, but it only takes an hour, and you come to the stream. The water is only ankle deep, and it's mostly awkward climbing down and up the small ledges. You take time to drink some water from the creek and collect some more for later. As you walk through the forest, the trees and animal life are more serene and peaceful than any of the walks you've faced before. You start to feel an unease in your stomach again. Things are going too well. How far, Joe? You ask as the trees start to thin and you see the earth before you fade from rich green and the dotting of colorful flowers to yellow and dry grasslands. Beyond that, you can't see, but you know from earlier what lay beyond. Flat and cracked ground with no cover. Any humanoid group could pick you out for miles. Same for predators. You've gone 3 miles. 5 miles remain. I've mapped you out a route that will take you up to the top of the ridgeline with relative ease. Thanks, Joe. You look for the horizon, the sun beginning to dip below the ridgeline. You've got less than an hour of daylight. Probably best to just wait here and hunker down for the night. You'll at least have the cover of the forest. Using one of your throwing daggers and an old flint you had stashed away in your belt, you create a fire as twilight approaches. You turn Joe onto auto-scan mode and take off your helmet. The visor will light up red if he senses danger. So Tal sent you here, you say to the still unconscious Aleph lying beside you. your nutrient tubes snaking along the path of grass between you, attaching at his arm and providing him with what he needs to survive until you can return to the fowler. If you are Aleph, you continue, Intik must really hate you to send you to this place. How you survived for a decade is beyond me. Oh, remember that time on Vivaldi 5? Those caverns with the bats? Damn thing's wings were wider than my body is tall. Picked you up and tossed you into that underground lake, which of course had a giant water serpent in it. Got hold of you and dragged you down towards its lair. I could have sworn you were a goner. But you came back up a minute later, right as rain and ready to go on to the bounty. You never told me how you got free of that one. He lay there, his chest rising and falling slowly, the lifeless expression of the mask staring up at the treetops. No sound, just a docile lamb beside you now. Hard to believe this was once the greatest bounty hunter in the Republic-controlled space. What about the time we kidnapped that Republic emissary in the Predka system? Got into a right mix with that one. What was it, 3? No, 4 M-class cruisers. And you threaded the needle through that planet's rings, got 2 of them that way, and the others you tricked into colliding with each other. Brilliant flying. No fear in your eyes doing it either. You just smiled and told me to hang on while our guest whimpered in his holding cell. You always liked going for Republic officials. Anything to help the little man out. Even though the rogue groups couldn't pay us to feed ourselves and fly half the time. We'll make it up down the line. That's what you'd say every time you had a can of expired vegetables for dinner. Why? Guilt for your past sins? Like killing my parents? Still no answer from your unconscious companion. You want to take off his mask, but the concerns of what's exposing his possibly burnt skin to the elements might do gives you pause. He could scream in agony and attract a predator or raiders. A severe wound that the mask might be holding together might open up and leak out, again attracting predators, but also he'd be dead pretty quickly. And you don't want him to die. Not here. Not this way. He'll die on your terms once he confesses to your face what he did. Maybe a little of what's holding you back is the idea that it really isn't Aleph under there. That you've dragged up all your past emotions and thoughts for nothing. Some random castaway. He didn't actually admit to being Aleph after all. Are you him? You whisper, looking down at him, those lifeless patches staring back at you. I can cut that eye covering, you say, looking at the left eye socket. The scar should be visible if it is Aleph. You go to grab your knife, but remember you left it by your helmet. Turning to reach for it, you see the visor flashing red. You grab the helmet and put it on and unmute Joe. Multiple human-sized entities moving in this direction from the grasslands. Unknown species. Just great, you say, grabbing the knife. You detach the nutrient canister from your suit and leave it beside your unconscious companion. You go to stamp out the fire, but think better of it. Picking up the burning branches one by one, you lay them out until you've created a ring of fire around the sleeping man. You keep one of the larger burning branches for yourself. You'll get to be Mal for a little longer, you say, surveying the trees. Joe, analyze the movement patterns of the pack headed this way and give me a number. They are moving on all 4 legs. I detect 4. Have any of them left the ground? What an odd question. Do you think they can fly, is what I'm saying, you try to whisper, but your aggravation with Joe is getting the better of you. I have not detected any flying motions as of yet. The amount of time they have been coming in your direction indicates they cannot. Are they together or fanning out? 3 together and 1 separated. The scout. They're not humans. They're a hunting party. Probably wolves or more of those cat creatures. Let's hope for the former. Why is that? Because I'm going climbing. Using your knife and the grips in your footwear, you ascend one of the trees with little problem. You stop at about 15 feet above the ground. By now you can actually see the shapes of the 4 predators. Definitely some kind of scavenger creature. Their front legs are more predominant, and the shoulders seem to hulk over the top of their hanging heads. The scout enters the camp first, circling the ring of fire before calling out in a howling tone to the others on the periphery. They are coming just within striking distance of your tree. Perfect positioning. You hurl the burning branch down into the midst of the three, the wooden torch smashing against one of the creature's backs, crippling it while the other two dart off in different directions from the unexpected blaze. With those three distracted, you descend from your treetop hiding place, knife brandished, and with a thrusting motion come down hard into the scout's back. He yelps in pain, but two more quick thrusts bring him to silence. The other two are still scattered, so you rush over to the crippled scavenger and put him out of his misery, slitting his throat. Now you can see the eyes of the two remaining scavengers, glowing in the dark beyond the ring of fire. They dart in different directions, but not to escape. They are speeding around the flames in order to get at you. You rush forward, and as the two make the turn to attack, you leap across the flames into the circle, the two beasts colliding with each other. They tussle in frustration, one nipping at the other's necks to assert its dominance. The momentary descent into primal hierarchy gives you the opening you need. You collect two more branches, and leaping back through the flames, you strike each animal across the face. The blows singe the scavengers and send them into a full retreat into the darkness of the wasteland, their hurt pride reflected in their high-pitched yowls. Predators out of range. Doubtful they will be returning. Thanks, Joe, you say, turning back to put out the fire, but you're met with a standing Malik. But his mask is removed. His face is weathered and hair grayer, but there's still enough of the man you once knew. If nothing else, the unmistakable scar running down his left cheek, gleaming in the firelight, confirms your suspicions. Hello, Tristy. Aleph. The unsettling feeling in your stomach rises. It was nice of you to take me down memory lane like that. You bastard! Not only have you been lying to me this whole time, you were awake too? Why? Why? Do you think I was going to just reveal myself to you? You turned on me, Tristy. Put me in the hands of Tal, and that's a fate worse than death. It might be hard to see in this light, but I've got plenty of scars on my face and the rest of my body besides the one you know, thanks to him. And you could have killed me. No, I need you to get off this planet, to settle things with Tal and his group. So that's it. Just need my fingerprint and eye scan. It's not like you've been looking forward to this reunion either, Tristy. Don't call me that. I'm not your little girl anymore. Not after what you did. What did I do? You killed my parents! You yell, hurling a burning branch that Aleph easily evades. No, he says, calmly stepping beyond the fires, and you can see his aged and scarred skin more clearly now, and your knife in his hand. Tal killed your parents. His mercenaries. I just saved your life. You led the raid on the capital. You killed my parents, and then you took me as a trophy. You pull your stun stick and get ready to swipe it at him, but he drops the knife and holds up his hands. That's not it, Kaza. I was there to ensure the magistrate escaped. Magistrate, Bafflemore says, barricading the doors to the palace. We have to evacuate immediately. The mercenaries are here to seize the capital, and they will not leave survivors. They can't kill me. I'm in good standing with the Republic Council, and a strong sympathizer to those who would see it unseated, Caladrone says, coming to stand beside her husband in support for the magistrate to leave. I cannot abandon the people. The people are subjugated, sir. The best we can do for you now is to provide you with a means of escape so the resistance can continue. I can't live among the resistance, the magistrate blusters. I don't have the wherewithal that people like you have to endure such conditions. Sir, it's either our conditions or that of a prison cell, or worse, Caladrone says. Mama? You call out from behind one of the columns to Caladrone. I'm scared. Kaza, Battlemore calls out to you. I thought I put you in the magistrate's ship. You shouldn't be here. I, I... An explosion rips through the ornate doors, causing the four of you to be thrust down among the marble floors of the great hall. Breach! You hear a loud voice yell as smoke and dust filter into the room, obscuring your vision, though you see your mother gather herself enough to get the magistrate out of sight. Where is the magistrate? A man in black armor calls down to your cowering father. You might as well kill me, Battlemore spits back. Blaster fire rings out through the hall from out of your line of sight and fells the soldier standing over your father. The sudden ambush causes the other soldiers in the group to return with a volley. You see multiple soldiers fall and an explosion from a grenade erupts from behind them. You scamper behind a column and shut your eyes as the firefight continues. You think you hear a woman cry out in agony before falling silent. Mother! You start to say, but a hand covers your face. In an instant, you're taken from the building. You lie! Your scream seems to scatter every animal in the forest, birds ascending from their perches and small grassland creatures rushing away in fright. No, the resistance knew he wasn't going to leave, not willingly. They hired me to take him out of the capital discreetly during the battle to make it look like he was being held for ransom. But the mercenaries, Tal's men, infiltrated earlier than I expected. Your mother was very brave and killed one of the men. He threw a grenade from a hiding spot to try and distract them, but it caused a bigger mess. The mercenaries killed your father and then your mother. The magistrate, too. I saw you behind the pillar, and I didn't want them to get you. I know what Tal does with child slaves. I didn't kill your parents, Tristy. I just failed to save them. I don't believe you! Why didn't you tell me any of this before? You were traumatized by it all. It took 6 months for you to even talk to me. By then, I thought it was best to just let the past lie. I should have, though. You deserve to know. For that, I'm sorry. You don't say anything for a long time. Aleph slowly approaching you, his hands up, the knife laying on the ground behind him now. You could kill him. A few pressure point attacks. Put his neck in the crook of your arm and squeeze. All you have to do is not believe. Look into those eyes. The ones you trusted for 8 years. The ones who guided and protected you. Look into them and see. The evidence. Tal had the report. Showed that you were a Republic spy. In the video he showed me, you were wearing a Republic outfit just like the rest of them. Tristy, I was a member of the Resistance. Don't you think it's coincidental that we always took their jobs? And I wore the same uniform so I could get past them more easily. You look into his eyes. Those same kind eyes. Honest. He always had a tell when he lied. The left eyelid fidgeted just a bit. It's steady right now. So, I betrayed you for nothing? 10 years of my life in service to the man responsible? You start to feel lightheaded, and the unease in your stomach is rising to the back of your throat. Hey, Aleph says, rushing forward to get a hold of you before you fall. Let's take a moment and breathe. I betrayed you, you repeat, taking off your helmet to get some fresh air, though the smoke from the fire causes you to heave and you pitch forward to vomit, soiling the front of Aleph's robes. Wasn't the reception I was expecting, but that's okay. He's covered in filth, but you don't care. You rush forward and throw your arms around him, sobbing into his chest. Quiet now, Aleph says, pulling you close as the two of you kneel to the ground, his arm wrapped around you. Everything's okay now. I betray... You can't get the words out as the tears continue to pour. You try to say you're sorry, but he won't even let you begin. The next day, your eyes are red from crying as the two of you set off across the wasteland. Carry your helmet in your hand and try to fill Aleph in on the last 10 years. So the resistance is dead, he says. 5 years on. Sure, there's some small pockets here and there, but it's mostly kids shooting at small fish and an explosion here and there. 20 years of fighting down the drain. Aleph's face looks pained as he says this. So the story you told me about your past? That's all true, except for crashing here. I used to be an escort pilot before I turned bounty hunter. That incident is one of several that led to the war. It would have been around the time you were born. And you were a member of the Resistance the whole time? Unofficially. I didn't agree with everything they stood for, but the Republic had become too corrupt. The leadership was more interested in profit than people. Suppression tactics were widespread. To be honest, that had been going on for a while, probably. So I helped the Resistance when it suited me. The kidnapping of a Republic official here, rescue mission there, all under my allegiance to the League and the Bounty Hunters Code. Why didn't you tell me? You weren't old enough to understand, and I didn't want you running off to join the Resistance. I needed you. Wanted you there with me. It was safer. I thought so anyways. You must have hated me for what I did to you. No. I put that down to Intik. You were just 18. His words are slick, and his influence is heavy. That's why I never took his jobs. So why did you go along with a job if you didn't like dealing with him? Because the money was good, and I was proud. Thought I'd kept my cover all these years. Plus it was a chance to get a Republic official. It sounded good. Too good in the end. I'm sorry, you say, coming to a halt at the base of the ridge. If I hadn't listened to Intik, hadn't let him poison me against you, none of this would have happened. You were still just a kid. But I carried on, took jobs from him, took out and captured resistance leaders up into the end of the war. I don't blame you, Tristy, Aleph says, placing his hands on your shoulders. You were manipulated by a man whose influence and tact is beyond measure. Well, it's about to get much larger, you say as the two of you start to ascend the path to the top of the ridge. What do you mean? The bounty. He's one of the governor's sons. Intik had arranged for him to marry his niece. If it goes ahead, he'll basically have a seat at the council table. Just a couple of assassinations, an accidental death away from taking over the collective. It's that dire, Aleph says, staring off at first before turning to you. Then the first thing we have to do is get off this rock with that boy. And then we'll kill Intik, you say. No, Aleph interrupts. We'd never get close enough to do it. And even if we did, it'd be a suicide mission. Plenty of underbosses to take his place, too. What we need to do is bring the boy to whoever is left and competent in the Resistance. Use him as a bargaining chip. Resistance? You say, unconvinced. Aleph, I told you, it's dead. If there's even a small cell alive, it can be regrown. By just us? No. I have a few contacts. Presuming they're still alive, you can get them involved as well. Like I said, the first thing we need to do is get off this rock. Reaching the top of the ridge, you pause. Why didn't you kill me? You ask. When I was sick. You had the chance while I was out. Because you're my Tristy, Aleph responds, turning to you. No matter what you've done, it won't ever change. I would have killed you, you say as he starts to disappear over the ridgeline into the forest. I know, he calls back. That's why I waited until you were out of opportunities to do so before I showed myself. The two of you make it to the clearing, and the ship is still there, waiting patiently to be revived. So it was you who damaged the ship's fuel tank. Had to keep you here, and knew about the fuel deposits. Wish you would have gone my way, though. Much easier. Though I guess it gave us time to bond. Guess so, you say with a smile. You fill the tank, and I'll get your boy, he says, darting off into the forest. You wonder for a moment if this is all a ruse. Will he come back with a herd of his canine hunters to finish you off? You fill the tank, and a few minutes later your concern is abated as he emerges alone, bounty in tow. He's a bit worse for wear. He needs a good cleaning, Aleph says, handing the still-bound young man over to you. So, tired, is all he can say as he willingly comes to your grasp. You're going to do a lot of good for us and the people of this galaxy, Aleph says to the wilting lad as you lead him to the ship. As you emerge from the cargo hold, you see Aleph kneeling in the center of the clearing. It sounds like he's saying a prayer. Still a firm believer in the code? You ask him as he finishes. Every day, I prayed for my freedom, that I would get back what was stolen from me, that you would be sent to redeem me, to make that payment for what was stolen, what Intik took. It's the greatest encouragement of my faith I could ask for. It's what makes me believe there's still hope for the future. Let's get going, you say, placing a hand on his shoulder. There's a revenge tour we're destined to undertake. Far greater than that, Triste. Far greater. The two of you enter the ship, and the engines fire. The Fowler lifts from the clearing floor and is soon above the tree line. It's not long before the ship is soaring above the clouds and into the upper levels of the atmosphere, and then the vastness of space. A whole galaxy at your fingertips, and a purpose to make a difference lay before you. You look over at Aleph, a smile on his face as he gazes out at the stars. The payment for what you stole. You know now what it was.